Hey guys, it's Krystal, and Apple just released AirPods Pro this week. I got a video linked down below in case you missed it. And alongside that, a lot of people were expecting to see the rumored 16-inch MacBook Pro, but unfortunately we're not getting that just yet. So I wanted to talk about what to expect and also something that no one's really talked about. So it's not really clear right now whether the alleged 16-inch MacBook Pro is supposed to replace the current 15-inch or just sit alongside it. But if it does sit alongside it and the only differences are slimmer bezels, maybe the SD card slot, a USB-A port, it doesn't really make it worth it to have both. But what would make it worth it is if that 16-inch MacBook Pro had an XDR display. So XDR is Apple's fancy term for HDR, which we saw with the Pro display, which has a peak brightness of 1600 nits, and then we saw with the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max, which has a peak brightness of 1200 nits. Now, I wouldn't expect to see the 16-inch as bright as a Pro display, but if it could at least match the iPhone 11 Pro's brightness, we could then view HDR, which is something that we can't do now with the current 15-inch that's capped at 500 nits. Why I think this would all make sense is because there's been a lot of rumors pointing to that new MacBook Pro needing a 96-watt charger, and if you do a little digging around, you'll see that the Pro display can output up to 96 watts to power a laptop, and there isn't really a MacBook that needs that much power yet, so this would all make sense. Now, the reason I'm even more excited for all of this, you guys might have noticed a lot of my recent videos are in HDR, and the way I'm able to do that is through Final Cut Pro 10 and Catalina through tone mapping, which kind of gives me an idea of what HDR looks like, but with an XDR display on the 16-inch, I'll be able to truly see what it looks like. Either way, Final Cut Pro 10 and Catalina are definitely doing some magic. And speaking of Catalina, if you're thinking of upgrading and you haven't done so yet, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, CleanMyMac X, who will help streamline that process. So Catalina itself is 8 gigs, and you're going to want a little more than double of that to install it, especially if you're on that 128 gig base life. It can be a bit of a struggle to free up that much space, so CleanMyMac X will automatically scan your computer and get rid of all the unnecessary junk. Like seriously, it'll find things that you didn't even know were there. Also with Catalina, it'll only support 64-bit apps, so with CleanMyMac X, it'll automatically detect which apps aren't compatible. And what's really cool, if there is any 64-bit updates available, it'll install them for you so that you're ready to go, because how frustrating would it be to upgrade and find out that half your apps don't work? On top of that, Macs are generally pretty safe, especially with Catalina, but if you do fall a victim of malware and adware agents, CleanMyMac X will do a great job of removing them and overall making sure your system is covered in every possible way. So if you want to learn more about CleanMyMac X and download it, you can check out that link down below. And again, big thanks to them for sponsoring today's video. Now jumping back to the MacBook Pro and the display, I don't expect to see full 4K, but probably some type of resolution jump. And what would also be cool is to see nano texture from the Pro display, which would kind of be a throwback to the old matte option on the old MacBooks, which a lot of people really loved. Another area where I don't expect to see a huge difference is with its processor. Maybe it'll start at base with an i9, maybe it'll have 32 gigs of RAM, but where I do expect to see some sort of difference is with more powerful graphics. So with Catalina, it takes more advantage of metal, and with that, you're going to see performance jumps not only from Final Cut, but the Adobe stuff as well. So having more powerful graphics will be more important than ever. And I already mentioned I'm excited to see slimmer bezels. I don't think they'll be as slim or rounded like the iPad Pro, but I do think they're going to be more uniform all around. And when it comes to ports, the return of the SD card slot would be amazing, not only for convenience, but not having to deal with a dongle. I'm super excited to get rid of my Who 2, and with USB-C, there's pretty much a cable for everything, but when it comes to the SD card slot, there's not really a true replacement, so that's why I'm even more excited. Now, there are some rumors saying that we might see 6 Thunderbolt ports, which would be pretty crazy, but I guess the more ports, the better. And there's also some talks of a USB-A port, which I wouldn't hold my breath for, but it wouldn't be too crazy since they are on the iMacs. Again, though, if they didn't bring any new ports or even USB-A and it was just that SD card slot, I would be super happy. Drop a like if you agree. Now, one of the biggest complaints with the current MacBook Pros is the keyboard. A lot of people have had problems. I myself never have, but there's been so many complaints. So one of the biggest rumors is that we're going to see a non-butterfly keyboard similar to the scissor ones on the previous ones. Another thing that's kind of interesting is that we might see Touch Bar separate from Touch ID, which would mean we would also get a physical escape key. So while we wouldn't get rid of Touch Bar, there might be some type of hybrid of new and old. So as cool as all that sounds, unfortunately it might come with a pretty hefty price tag. Rumors are saying starting at least $3,000. But again, with all those new features and Pro options, it's probably going to sit alongside the current 15-inch MacBook Pro, which would be cheaper. By the time you're seeing this video, October will have come and passed, so I'll have to say goodbye to the set and I guess no October event, but fingers crossed for November where we'll hopefully see this 16-inch MacBook Pro. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you later.